Good evening, and welcome to the PLC session using AP Insight to respond to the instructional planning report. My name is Kelsey Burris, and I am an AP biology consultant and teacher from Vancouver, Washington, which is right outside Portland, Oregon. I have been teaching AP biology for 16 years. I first started in South Florida. I have been using AP Insight for the past 4 years, and I find it to be one of the best tools that I use. Tonight, we're going to be working our way through this. This current setup is a little different than we've used in the past. You're unable to use your microphone, so all of our questions and answers will be done through the chat box. If you do have questions, feel free to raise your hand on the screen by clicking your name, and you'll be able to kind of indicate your hand, and I'll be able to answer it. And I'll try to follow along as much as I can through the chat box and answer them through verbal cues. But at any point, this is more about a PLC and us being a working group than just a simple lecture to you. Now, the big thing is make sure that you have those two documents as well as to be logged into AP Insight if you can. I have posted in the chat box a dummy account that you can log into to get into AP Insight if you need to. I will go ahead and give you a second to log in, and please raise your hand when you have those two documents and have already logged into AP Insight. Excellent. Alexis, Peter's in. Good. Alice, were you able to use that dummy account? And Cecilia? One thing that, as you guys are working your way through there, is that we do assume in this PLC that you have a basic working knowledge of the AP Insight platform. The goal and the learning outcomes of this PLC is for us to be able to incorporate its resources in the classroom using the instructional plan report. All right, great. Cecilia? Alice? Excellent. All right, great. Okay, so as far as the goal and learning outcomes, the goal is teachers will understand how to use the tools and resources available on AP Insight to help them address student misunderstandings in AP Biology as informed by the instructional planning reports. Oh, Jen, nice to see you. Great for you to join us. After today's training, you will be able to interpret the instructional planning report to determine where gaps in students' understanding exist, strategically use AP Insight to plan instruction and assessments that are aligned to learning goals, and engage with colleagues online throughout the year to share best practices. So today's essential question is how can you use your AP Insight as a tool to respond to the information in the instructional planning report that you received from the College Board? And throughout tonight, that's going to be the essential question that we're after, and hopefully we're able to meet those needs. So first of all, we'll start out with just basically the understanding of the instructional planning report and how we can use it to inform instruction, and then responding to the instructional planning report using AP Insight. And throughout this, again, I will encourage you to ask questions and respond to those questions via the chat box. Unfortunately, the microphone feature, it only works for the presenter, so that we will keep up to date here in the chat box. And then at the end, we'll go ahead and go through a survey. Now, where am I? So in the chat box, if you can, please type the letter next to the statement that best describes your familiarity with the instructional plan report. Again, there's no wrong answer on this one. All right, B. Okay, Alexis, Cecilia, Alice. All right, you've seen the instructional plan report, but have not used it to plan instruction. Excellent. Mark, same thing. And I believe we're waiting on Jen. Jen, are you here? Excellent. All right, we'll just kind of wait on Jen here in a second. But while we're asking here, um, what challenges do you face implementing the instructional planning report into your instruction? Jen, the choices are A, B, C, and D. They're on the screen. Let's see. What about advice do you have to offer on if you think that you could, how you could use that planning report? Any thoughts? Small sample sizes in my classes, hard to know meaningful. It is excellent. Anybody else have any thoughts with this? If you haven't used your IPL, is there anything specific that is keeping you from using it? Okay, Mark likes to see where students have scored poorly on the exam. Alexis, I struggle to find the time to really plan. I'm in the second year of flipping my class and I feel a little scattered. Don't we all, Alexis? I'm 16 years in and I still at times can get that feeling. For myself, I use it. I teach sophomores who have never had biology, so I use it to help guide my instruction for the next year to see, like Mark, where they have scored poorly to help guide me going into the next year. All right, Peter, I shared the IPRs with teachers at different schools. Oh, excellent. You use it a bit, Jen, time to really focus on it? Absolutely. It's a great tool to use, and combining with AP Insight really brings out the importance of the tool that AP Insight is. So, where do you? We'll go ahead and wait for Alice. She was typing something. See what her feedback was. Just get back there for a second. District user IPRs at a district pull. Oh, excellent. All right. So where do you find the instructional planning report? Sometimes that is a difficult thing. The IPR is found within the AP score reports on AP Central in the same place as the student score roster. So your teachers, where they find their score is where they'll find their instructional planning reports. And they log in with the same credentials as they do with their AP audit. The IPR can be logged in, can be downloaded by sections. If you look at the screen, it can be down by section or the entire planning report. And you'll notice with the two arrows there. So on this next slide, you'll show it shows some data here. And this data comes, this is an example of the planning report by section. The top bar graph and data table shows how this group of students performed versus the global population in terms of overall score on the AP exam. The bottom two bar graphs and data table show students' performance on the multiple choice and free response sections by the quartiles, meaning the lowest fourth, the second fourth, third fourth, and the highest fourth in comparison. On the second page of the IPR provides a detailed view of the student's performance on specific content categories, big ideas, science practice, etc., on multiple choice and free response questions and their connections to them. So by taking a look at here, you'll see that it'll give the number of questions, like, for example, big idea one, there's 11 questions in that for that big idea. The global mean was 6 and the group mean was 6. On the bottom chart, you're looking at the different free response questions in relationship to the topic and the science practice that it was applied to. The IPR shows how many students in a class were below proficiency, scores 1 and 2, at proficiency, score 3, and above proficiency, scores 4 and 5, compared to the global population of the students who took the exam. Class data can be compared to the global data and to the prior year's data if available. So for myself, I have these IPR reports for years that I'm able to kind of compare my different students over the years, and it's really just information for myself. Teachers really want to look for statistically significant differences in your data, and the more years they have, the more significant their data is. But even just 1 year's IPR can give a lot of information. Remember, like I can't remember who's the small Cecilia. Class size will affect the percent differences. Where if you look at this class here, the number of students in the group was 9, but for me, I have 152 students, and those 150 students will give me much more significant data when I'm looking at my IP report. So in order to identify strengths and weaknesses, you need to look at both question types and ask the following questions for the IPR. Based on the data, are students in your group successful in this content area? Secondly, what is the evidence to support your assessment of success? What's the evidence from the IPR? What's the evidence from classroom activities? And what's the evidence from classroom assessments? And this would be a really great activity to start to dissect that IPR versus just looking at it and trying. It allows you to get significant data from your IPR. Other questions that you might want to consider is the group mean the same as the global mean? How difficult did the students find the free response questions compared to the total group? Are the students evenly distributed? Compare group versus global mean on the subsections of the exam. And what teaching strategies may improve multiple choice and free response question students in terms of students' performance? I'll type in a question here or a response. See what Mark has to say. Does anybody have any questions up to this point? Yes, I do use the IPR to analyze my free response questions. For me, that information is extremely valuable because the free response questions is where my students can truly show what they know and be able to connect multiple concepts and science practices at one time. So by looking at that particular data, it allows me to decipher what they actually know versus just taking a multiple choice and taking a question out. They actually are putting pen to paper and showing what they know. How about you, Mark? You've been teaching for years. How do you go about it? Does anybody else would use this with their free response question? All right. My students sometimes have trouble writing good responses. How about the rest of you? I like to see how my grading compares with AP scores. Oh, excellent. So in terms of writing good responses, does anybody have any techniques or anything? For me, I use a lot of claim evidence and reasoning that you'll see a lot on the discussion boards these days. We're asking students to justify their thoughts, elaborate their thoughts. All right, Cecilia, let's see what Alexa's typing something. All right, I make them practice a lot of old FRQs and also swap and grade each other. Gives them a sense of what graders are looking for. Excellent. Alexis, any techniques in terms of writing good responses? I like to do a mock reading with the kids where I give them student samples. Excellent. And they grade to see if we are getting closer. Excellent. All right. Well, one of the things that if you are familiar with AP Insight, there are a bunch of tools. There's actually free response questions embedded in the with AP Insight that will actually lead your students into becoming better at writing free response questions. So this kind of leads us to our next discussion question, which is based on the instructional planning report. Where can this teacher begin to focus in order to develop a plan to improve student understanding? So if you were to pull out your IPR, the mock AP exam IPR that you downloaded, what plan could they come up with in order to improve students' understanding and ultimately success on the AP exam? I'll give you a minute to take a second and look through that instructional planning report. All right, Alice is the first one up here, so let's see what her thoughts are. All right, Mark's after it here. Okay, so improvement is probably best directed first at topics where our mean scores are below the global mean. Okay, good. Looks like more focus on FRQs in order. All right, from Jen. Mark, students seem to struggle with multiple choice. Yep. Mean scores are pretty close to the global means. Yeah. Now, while you're looking at the IPR, look at the where they're falling. Are they falling in the lowest fourth? Are they in the second fourth, third fourth? As you taking a look. Okay, peer review of FRQ is so helpful. Oh, absolutely. Sometimes they learn more from the rubric than they do writing the FRQs. Okay, I think everybody's kind of weighed in on that. So I'm going to jump to the, waiting on Peter here. All right, see what Peter's got to say. Just give him a second as he's typing away there in the chat box. All right, same student struggle on the FRQ. Excellent. Okay, so so if you take a look at the screen here, you'll see the instructional planning report that you have in front of you. I'm going to highlight some specific areas where this teacher could focus based on the IPR. The first section here is Big Idea 3. And the students in this class struggled there, as well as with Science Practice 1. Okay, that if you're looking at it, they are below the global mean or right at it, and then most of their scores were in the lowest fourth or second fourth there. They also found questions 2, 6, and 8 the most difficult with the FRQs. Does everybody see where I got that information, how I kind of deciphered that information out? Because this kind of leads us to the next question of why did students struggle most in these areas? You might have any thoughts? Anything else you would add to this, or do you all agree that Big Idea 3 and Science Practice 1 would be focus areas? Just, you can give me a raise of the hand. or say yes? All right, perfect. Okay. One of the most difficult things that you will find, especially for you, the district folks, is teachers being able to look at this and not get caught up with the data. The more they look at it, the more they'll understand it, but it's just literally working with the data. So considering instructional practices, um, if students perform better on multiple choice questions, was it because of the structure of the formative summative assessments? Any thoughts on that? Why do you think students may or may not have reached their expectations? See what Alexis had to say. And if students performed better on certain content areas than others, was it due to instructional strategies, or was it that was used to teach the content? Was the content easier? Was it the strategy? Any thoughts on this? Could be either or both. Students can usually think through questions and answer, but when they have to really construct a response, it can be harder for them. Oh, absolutely. That is so true. But if we refer to content area, is there certain strategies that are used that are better in some content areas than others? Sometimes the matter of pacing instruction, yep, time can play a role when answering FRQs. How do we know based on just the IPR? We would need to see the teacher's assessments or instructional strategies. Absolutely. And this is one way that when we get into it, that AP Insight can help the students with some of these instructional strategies that they might be with content area they might be struggling with. So in terms of planning for success, what a teacher can do, now that you have identified the areas where changes to instructions are needed, a plan of action can be developed. Using the student performance question and answer to understand the common student errors is a really important tool. How many of you have been to the AP reading, have graded AP exams? Have any of you done that before? Just give me like a raise a hand or type yes, no. Okay, Peter's no. Okay. Alexis, yes, this was my first year. Oh, excellent, Alexis. Okay, Mark, no. Okay. Not eligible yet. Hey, your time's coming though. We need as many as we can. Okay, but we'd like to in a couple years, my second year teaching. Excellent, Jen. So the thing about the student performance question and answer is us old timers refer to it as the chief reader report. And basically, at the end of the reading, based on what readers have been reading, they give out a list of common student errors that they were seeing in the 200,000 plus free response answers that students were writing. And that gives us a lot of insight into how students are thinking at that time. So using that, you can look at your syllabus to analyze where you taught the topics. What adjustments do you need to make? What connections do you need to make in today's AP biology? For me, I find myself more and more making connections to systems and implementing systems throughout my curriculum, such as I'm in the middle of teaching cellular respiration and photosynthesis, and I'm going to go move into the trophic levels afterwards into the ecosystems to make connections to those systems. And one of the ways that I started doing that was my work with AP Insight and making those connections that were needed, along with looking at student performance questions and answers and those strategies. You can refer to the challenge area building block summary sheet to see where you might make changes to your challenge area roadmap. For you people that are unfamiliar with challenge areas are the topics that AP Insight have identified that students struggle in based on years and years of data collection. Um, those Yeah, absolutely, Mark. It's changed the way I've taught doing trophic levels. I always wondered why I didn't do that, and now this year I'm actually going to do the energy dynamics lab at the same time to just kind of connect the whole thing together. But anyways, with the challenge areas, like one of them is cellular respiration, one's photosynthesis and organelles and their connection to ecosystems. You can use that to help build your curriculum and the content in which you're going to be teaching. What strategies will you use to teach and assess their progress on those sections is another need that will need to be addressed. And what are the quick fixes that you can put into place for this year? Because most of us are planned out, and where can I put things to help me based on my instructional planning report? And then what issues and concerns will take longer to address? There are certain things that I always plan to do, and I just run out of time, and it just takes longer for me to address them in my curriculum. So with that being said, here's an example. We're going to take a look at question 8 from the 2014 AP Biology exam. Read this question to yourselves as I read it aloud. So a research team has genetically engineered a strain of fruit flies to eliminate errors during DNA replication. The team claims that this will eliminate genetic variation in the engineered flies. A second research team claims that eliminating errors during DNA replication will not entirely eliminate genetic variation in the engineered flies. A, provide one piece of evidence that would indicate new genetic variation has occurred in the engineered flies. B, describe one mechanism that could lead to genetic variation in the engineered strain of the flies. C, describe how genetic variation in a population contributes to the process of evolution in the population. All right, so taking a look at this, how could students demonstrate an understanding on this question? How do the content and skills required align to AP Insight? So if we take a look at this scoring guide, for A, it's talking about how provide one piece of evidence that indicates new genetic variation, and the pieces of evidence are new phenotype, new genotype. Where this aligns with AP Insight is with challenge area 1.5, where the student is able to connect evolutionary changes in a population over time to a change in the environment. It also aligns to challenge area 3.4. The student is able to describe representations and models illustrating how genetic information is translated into polypeptides. Just real brief about AP Insight. Below the challenge areas are these things called building blocks, which are smaller pieces that put together help the students to understand a particular challenge area. The big thing is that each challenge area is also associated with at least one science practice. Both content and skill are important and should be addressed. It is important that you understand that we're trying to connect the content using the science practices. Students may have misconceptions or misunderstandings related to the content or to the science practice, and that is one of the things that the IPR can help us with. Is it a content, or is it science practice, or is it a combination of both? Looking at part B here, where it said describe one mechanism that could lead to genetic variation in engineered strain of flies, it aligns to challenge area 3.11, which is the student is able to evaluate evidence provided by data sets to support the claim that heritable information is passed from one generation to another through mitosis or meiosis followed by fertilization. It also aligns to 3.24 challenge area, which is able to predict how a change in phenotype when exposed as a phenotype provides a change in genotype when expressed as a phenotype provides a variation that can be subject to natural selection. And then finally, part C Describe how genetic variation in a population contributes to the process of evolution in the population. This one aligns to challenge area 1.5, where you're connecting evolutionary changes in a population over time to a change in the environment. All right, so we're taking a look here. So this is the student performance question and answer. Okay, so this is the step one of this. Now that we have identified the areas of struggle, we can formulate a plan. Step one, consult the student performance question and answer. It will provide us with the specific information that we need to plan and structure. Now, the first thing here, it will give us the intent of the question. What was the question wanting? What was the student expected to do? Yeah, this is the Chief Reader's Report. The student performance question and answer is also known as the Chief Reader Report for some of us old timers now. They like us to use the appropriate term now, which is the student performance question and answer. The next thing is common student errors or omissions. So this brief summary will talk about what the students were writing. And this is not just one student. This is thousands of students and what they saw as a trend in the testing population. And that trend is common throughout with the testing population, so they can be pretty sure that they can pass it along to us. And then finally, this last one is advice to teachers. With this one, this is the instructional practice. This is what say, okay, this is what teacher needs to do, such as a teacher should also differentiate between mutations caused during DNA replication and other sources of genetic variation. So it gives us some strategies to help us learn from the instructional planning report and connecting it with the student performance question and answers. At this point, does anybody have any questions? Nope. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to the next slide. So step two. So this is my favorite thing, which is when we start kind of implementing AP Insights. So if we take a look here, what this is a student struggles sheet and the appropriate challenge area. In this case, the challenge area is 3.14. And you'll see that it lists the building blocks. Their structure of DNA. Building block B is DNA, is the heritable information, so on and so forth. And you will use these student struggle guides to help gain additional insight into the areas where students may struggle with this content area. So AP Insight has given you or your teachers basically student struggles that they have collected through their data analysis to help your students tackle these challenge areas that they come across. All right, so now the student progress sheet. This is where the students monitor their own learning. So this is a great tool if you think about it here, where a student can actually start to practice putting their thoughts to paper, connecting things. It's designed to help the students identify their own progress and monitor their understanding. How might the student progress sheet be used to inform further instruction? Does anybody have any thoughts about that? See what you guys have to say about this. For me, it's like I was saying, it's a great chance to to have the students start to reason their learning, their thought process. If you see a pattern in student responses about their areas, then they are struggling, and then you need to go over it again. Absolutely, that's a great tool to do. Jen, they can use this to monitor their own learning, engage in their metacognition. Excellent. Excellent. That is really important to helping students to build and take responsibility for their earning. When do you have students complete this? What are you guys' thoughts? When would you have your students complete the student progress sheet? Would this be done at the beginning, during the process, at the end? I think all those, yes, I've used them in different forms. I've used them before, during, after. Sometimes it will give me, yeah, pre and post. That's beautiful. For you people that are new to AP Insight and haven't been in, there's actually building block quizzes that you can look at this, and if students all agree that they are self-efficient at this, it might be time for a building block quiz. Yes, use them to review. Absolutely, that's a good tool as well. And you can follow it up with one of those building block quizzes, like I was saying. All right. Now, step 4. Now we get to use the building blocks to scaffold understanding of content and the mastery of skills. And with this, the building blocks build on each other to accomplish an overall understanding of a particular challenge area. The students need to be able to apply the content area in order to understand the challenge area. Okay, and you'll notice that with the goal of the task, that goal of the task, science practice 1 is basically covered here, and what the students would be doing in this performance task. You use the performance task to help teach each building block. They're aligned with identified content and skills for the building block, as well as the building block quiz. So with the performance task, one thing that you have to they use different language. These are the activities that teachers will use in their classroom to help teach these building block concepts and overall challenge areas. When I first started with AP Insight, I was a standalone. I'm actually still a standalone. So I'm basically the administrator and teacher in my school district. I'm the only one that uses. So I had to completely learn this on my own. And once you get in and understand what the goal of the task are and be able to connect them to your instructional planning report, the students, their understanding of these difficult concepts just fly off the chart for me. All right. I might use them on a review. Do it. Excellent. And these performance tasks, some of these, do you have the students use this at home, or do you? Yeah, these aren't standalone activities. There's some front loading sometimes that goes on. I will some of the activities can be used before content, but there's one in particular, biomolecules, that has these tangled toys that for me I just absolutely love it when you're talking about monomers and polymers and talking about dehydration and whatnot. Cecilia, go ahead and ask a technical question. Feel free. See if I can answer it for you. To bulk download files in like what form? Oh, you're talking about like the individual performance task? I do not know about that. I can ask the question and get back to you, but I do know that like when I do it, I have to download them individually, is how I've done them in the past. It looks like we have a new person in. Melissa's here. She's going ahead and typing. Was I able to answer your question? I know it would be helpful if you were able to download them all at one time, but unfortunately, I don't think so. But I will check on that for you. All right, great. Now, with the performance task, there are assessments for learning to build student understanding in your classroom. Now, understanding can be earned. Students can set their own learning goals and monitor their progress toward their goals to using their student progress sheet. Oh, okay. But if you ask, they could probably give us an option for absolutely. You are correct, Melissa. Okay. Now, you can assess the understanding of the building blocks using the building block quizzes. And for me, these are my favorite things. And it's the one thing that brings me back to AP Insight on a consistent basis. And with the building block on the screen here, this is just one example of a building block for this particular challenge area. The building block quiz questions allow us to check for students' understanding of content, skill, because they require the use of skill science practices as well as content, just like the questions on the AP exam. Students need to be able to apply their content knowledge and skills across multiple topics and domains. Challenge area assessments and AP exam assesses the same content and skills as the building block quizzes. Do any of you have any specific strategies that you might use to implement these building block into your classroom? Assign them as homework after teaching a topic. Excellent. That's one way of doing it. I tend to, I have my students do it in class. They're all cell phone friendly now. So my students just jump on the phone, even though I have computers and iPads in my class, they just do them on their phone now. Can they be used as formative assessments? Kids can retake them. Yes, absolutely. You can reset them as many times as you want. There's different features you can do. You can reset them to where the students see the answers right away or they don't. I did them in class on netbooks for warm-up. Absolutely. There's different settings you can do with the building blocks. Really, but they can't change their answer. Well, they would have to retake the answer, the quiz. You would just have to go ahead and reassign the quiz. One tool I use is a little instructional strategy I do use is based off my instructional planning report. I make sure that my students take those quizzes again when we're reviewing for the AP exam to make sure that they hit the science practices and the challenge areas for a second time in terms of those questions with these building block quizzes. So that's a important technique to use. All right. Melissa and Audra is joining us here. See what any questions that they might have. Now with step 5, we're reviewing student performance data and modifying instruction accordingly. So one of the cool things about AP Insight is it allows us to kind of take a look and go, all right, what challenge areas, what are they doing, your students are doing in relationship to the building block and challenge areas. Using the next step guides to analyze quiz and assessment results, you're able to take the best course of action to address the gaps in learning. Quiz reports provide information about students' potential misunderstanding. For you that are here at the district level, the district administrators out of like Spokane, Washington, they use this quite frequently to take a look at and see how their students are doing and to help support their teachers in any way that they might do. But as far as the teachers, it's invaluable it's so valuable, I mean, to go and see, all right, the green shows a mastery, but the red, there's for building block B, okay, there's 9 of my students who are not performing at a level that is proficient, so maybe we need to go back and take those again. Yes, after they take the quiz, yes, they have redirective assignments that they can go ahead and get help with. Excellent point, Melissa. So with reviewing student performance data, you're able to take a look, and each answer on the building block quiz questions is written toward a specific understanding or misunderstanding. By knowing which distractor a student selected, you are able to target instruction toward that particular misunderstanding. Quiz reports give information about overall student performance on the class as well as individual student performance. So you're able to differentiate learning and have individual learning plans if you need those to help your individual students perform better in those challenge areas. The quiz reports provide that valuable information regarding students' progress, which can be used to reteach and or assign ACT resources, which, as Melissa was referring to, are those activities that if a student is struggling in a certain area, they're able to do this to help build towards mastery. Does anybody have any questions up to this point? Nope, I think we're all good. Excellent. So the next step guides. The next step guides, there's an example here. And what this is, you use it to help you and your students analyze and determine the best course of action for meeting students' identified needs. The next step guide is completed after a building block quiz and or a challenge area assessment. The next step guides can be used with students. They can share your summary of what was most difficult for the class based on the questions with which the most students struggled. And they can also explain how the correct answer and how the associated success criterion shows evidence of mastering. So once again, on these next step guides, I look at them as a way for my students to continue to put thought to paper and to practice that justification and elaboration that they need to get better at. So they take a question, did they get it correct or yes or no, and then be able to explain why. For my students, that's where they tend to struggle, is their elaboration on answering questions and putting their thoughts there. This next student guide support the students' ownership of their learning. Does anybody have any thoughts how they could implement this into their instructional practices? Any thoughts? Okay, excellent. All right, so moving on to the performance task and challenge area assessments. So to ensure students have gained an enduring understanding of the challenge area, performance tasks help secure the enduring understanding by having students use their knowledge in different ways and in different contents. Assessing understanding using the challenge area assessments allow the students to write further free response questions. All of you were referring to free response questions as being a struggle both for your students as well as on the practice in IPR. This is a source for you to use with your students to help in that process. So once you have covered all the building blocks at some point in your curriculum, it's important that you remember with the AP Insight, it's a tool, not a curriculum. So you might end up doing building block A for 3.4 in, let's say, November, and then B, C, and D in February. Once you've covered all the building blocks is when you as a teacher would use these performance tasks and challenge area assessments for the entire challenge area. And you can then use these free response questions as a way to test their overall understanding of the content of the challenge area. This right here is an example of a challenge area assessment where a template strand of structural gene contains the DNA sequence shown above. Yes, these are, Mark, these are based on AP exam questions. And for me, it's one of the things I absolutely love about AP Insight. I find these to be the closest thing that I can find in terms of AP style questions, both the quizzes as well as these free response questions. Melissa's going ahead and typing here. We'll see what she has to say. She agrees with me. Oh, excellent. Okay. So, but this just kind of shows you, and there are rubrics that come with these, so you're not reinventing the wheel with this, but these can easily be implemented into your instructional practices right away, as long as you're able to identify the challenge areas and where they're lying in your current curriculum. Finally, you need to review the student performance and modify instruction accordingly. So using the challenge area and next step guides, which are identical to the building block next step guides, you will then take a look and go, okay, where are my students? And they go ahead and say, okay, where are we at? And then you're able to say, do we need to do more in this specific area? And there are also additional resources listed to help you with that. So moving to the reflection, how using the instructional planning report and the student performance Q&A inform the use of AP Insight in your classroom. Any thoughts? All right, everybody's typing away here. See what people have. Once you go ahead and type your response, go ahead and try to download your own instructional planning report, which you would find on your audit site. Okay, Alexis, I can look at the areas my students scored poorly in last year, look at my instructional sequence, and then assign the activities in AP Insight. You can address that. Okay. I can use the IPRs to see where my teaching needs to be improved to better meet the needs of my students. Absolutely. See, for me, that's what the instructional report is. The instructional report is pretty much all about me and how I can improve. It took me a few years to kind of figure that one out. That information is about me and how I can improve myself going into next year. Good guide for new teachers. Yes. Like Alexis was saying with the instructional sequence, AP Insight, the challenge areas, you'll find that they line up pretty much with where your students will struggle with, and those activities and building blocks within the activities within the building block will help improve your instruction. Okay, see where my kids need extra support? Yeah, I believe this is a great tool for new teachers, Mark, especially because these activities that come, the performance tasks, I call them activities, but the performance tasks for the building blocks gives teachers, they do a great job with hands-on activities that meet the science practices as they are helping understand the content of the challenge area and building block. You can marry what you still need to learn to teach better with supported API that will push both teacher and students to mastery. Excellently put, Melissa. Peter, do you have any thoughts with this? We'll see. Not to put you on the spot, Peter. No big deal. Were all of you able to be able to find your instructional planning report? Yes, excellent. Mark, excellent. Yep, excellent. Okay, so those are one of the things. Sometimes we'll download our ourselves in July, and my old self, I would just file it away. But please make sure that it becomes a valuable tool when you are working in improving your instruction and connecting AP Insight to those challenge areas that your students had the previous year, and then improving your own instruction. See, we'll go ahead and Mark's typing some things. See what they have to say before I jump into the next slide here. Do you use that at the start of the year or when you get to an area that needs the improvement? Are you talking about AP Insight in general, or are you talking about instructional, the instructional planning report? The instructional planning report I use throughout the year. I will use it when I'm planning for each unit to remind me that the challenge areas that my students have, and it's almost like a working document. I have used AP Insight long enough now where I don't have to refer back to the building blocks to know what they are, but there are little cheat sheets that you can use that from AP Insight that allows you to, right there where it says biology overview challenge area building block summary, is a great tool. I had them add to it, and what that is a 2-sheet page where it tells you specifically the topics that are covered in each building block. So that allows me to help plan my unit. And it's one of the things I asked for when I first started kind of working with AP Insight, because it makes planning so much easier, that I can look at my instructional planner report and then quickly find the challenge area and the building block that it refers to. Now, one of the things that we do want to make sure that all participants know about is our wonderful Share What Works discussion board for AP Insight. It's a great place to ask questions, share experiences, and collaborate with other AP Insight teachers. The site is actually monitored by an expert AP Insight teacher, so you can feel free to ask any questions. The thing about this discussion board, this is separate from the discussion boards for AP Biology. This is housed within AP Insight, so you need to be on AP Insight to communicate it. But it is a great resource, especially for new teachers and old teachers like myself. You can go on there and see how teachers are using. A lot of people will provide different roadmaps and techniques that students are doing to help improve student learning. Now, does anybody have any specific questions or comments that you would like to make? Give you a second if you have any questions. Some of the resources that will be available will be the PowerPoint handout for today's session, link, recording of the PLC session. This session will actually be coming soon, so you can review it if you would like. And then sharing what works is an important tool to remember as you're becoming more and more familiar with AP Insight. Looks like Jen is typing something, so let's see what the questions she has for us. Anybody else with any questions? Yes, Jen, I would tell you this. My piece of advice for you is, if you look at the biology, that last link there where it says biology overview challenge area building block summary, if you download that and then just pull your instructional planner reports, just take a quick look at your instructional planner report, and you'll start being able to make connections of what resources that AP Insight has and what connections you can make to your curriculum. Along with, have you made a roadmap yet, Jen? As I'm answering these questions, I'm going to jump ahead to in terms of there's a survey we would like for you to be able to take. The link is right there. Excellent, Melissa. Thank you for offering help. No roadmap yet. Well, you know what I'm going to do? Yeah, the roadmap was key to understanding AP Insight. If you would like, I'm going to actually type in my email, Melissa, Jen, and you can feel free to ask me questions, or I'm more than willing to send my I think I have like 3 or 4 different roadmaps that I've used, that any of you can email me, and I will for sure help you with it, or you can see what I'm doing with AP Insight. Thank you, Melissa. Yeah, like as Mark said, like just taking the roadmap, and it really doesn't take that long, because you know your own curriculum, and it's just about showing like, okay, where would this building block go? Where would this building block go? And then the instructional planning report is there to for you to identify what your students are missing, but you can implement those AP Insight in there. Let's see what Cecilia has. Anything? This is a new survey that Audra Ward just made. So can't tell which side is agree. Here, I'm going to click on it myself, and let's see if I can figure it out for you. I'm not sure which side is agree or which side. You know what? We're going to make a call. Let's see, question 4. Let's see what question 4 is. Yes, question 4. You know what? We will make a executive decision, and what we'll say is agree on the far left-hand side and disagree on the far right side. Okay, so, and then I'll let Audra know. So agree is left-hand side, and disagree on the far right-hand side. If that helps all of you. And I'll let Audra know. I know she just did that. She kind of cleaned up the survey from last year, so we'll be able to. And as you're finishing, I'm going to go ahead and stay on for a few minutes here. If you have any further questions, but on the screen you'll see if you need any specific information about AP Insight, there's always a help email that they'll get back to you right away. And I'm going to stay on here for good as ever long as you need help or questions with AP Insight. But other than that, if you have finished your survey, we thank you for your time, and I hope I was able to help you with in connecting your instructional report to your AP Insight use. I would just say again that AP Insight is the best tool I use in the 16 years I've been teaching AP biology. And hands down, I recommend it to anybody. But once you just get in there and start working, you will see the benefits of it. Again, thank you for your time and effort to attend. If you have any questions, again, I'm going to stay on and just go ahead and fire away. Other than that, have a great evening.